Jakob, welcome to our conversation. It's a pleasure to have you joining us. Jakob, yeah, you can give a short introduction about yourself.
Definitely, and glad to be here. Yeah, my name is Jacob, and I'm a part of Obsidian Digital, which is an agency in Denmark. And I've been working with Obsidian for almost 2 years now, and I'm currently sitting in our Aarhus office, working with primarily our social media department. Yeah.
And Jakob, you are digital experts at Obsidian, right? And one of the cases that we have a shared customer case with Zapp, who is an EV charge box company. And a few months ago, we had made a case with the company itself, and they have received some amazing results. They have, for 2 months, they spent around €500 in ad spend, and they had more than 900 leads, where 10% of the leads actually bought their product afterwards. I mean, that's a huge return of investment. We as Scratcher, we are just the tool, so we don't know much about the details of what actually happened. But you reached out to me and said, hey, we actually made this, so a pleasure to learn more about that case.
Definitely. Yeah, so I think our initial thoughts when being on the project with Zapp was, of course, we are optimizing towards a lot of conversions and branding activities, but we also thought that there was a lot of questions in regards to which charging box do the clients actually need, or the customers. And that's when we wrapped our head around how can we actually try to utilize that and actually be present in that journey. So that's also one of the reasons we came with the idea of using Scratcher, the gamification tool, to actually be aware of which products the clients wish to actually get, and by that also asking custom made questions to actually be able to answer some of the maybe pains some of the clients could have, and trying to make sure that those questions or answers are actually being fulfilled.
And you have various legs, of course, because one of the cases or questions we always get at Scratcher is where do I target my audience, and what do I do with them once they signed up? And you have some insights on that, both in terms of meta advertising, but also in terms of marketing automation afterwards.
Yeah.
Can you briefly just explain what were your thoughts and the idea behind creating a gamified product selection quiz and how to attract traffic?
Yeah, so the first part was obviously making the questions in it, etc., and making sure that each charging bots are being located to the different answers they are actually using. The other part is, of course, in related to automation, that we made sure that people are aware that this possibility is present on Zapp. So one of the first things we did was making sure that there was a pop-up which our automation team made. So when people actually visit our website, either if they came from Meta, Google Ads, or just organic, we made sure that they knew that this possibility was actually there. The other part of that was, of course, we needed to make sure that people know that this opportunity has arrived. So one of the things I did on my end in regards to meta advertising was to make sure that we sent as much traffic into this gamification side where people actually have the opportunity to fulfill it. And the thoughts behind that was we need to make sure that we target people that are actually interested in this charging bot world and have maybe an electric car.
So can you talk about how you actually segment that? So of course for this case it was electric vehicles, but maybe share some insights in what can people who's listening into this case and viewing the case, what takeaways can they take in terms of making sure that their segmentation on Meta is optimized for traffic?
Definitely. So it's all about industry and which people they're actually trying to optimize for. So what we did was we made 3 different ad sets, which tells a bit about the audience you wish to target. The first one is the most common you usually make when you advertising a Meta, and that's just broad. So you're just telling the algorithm, find as many people and let the algorithm find out who is the correct target audience. The second one is a lookalike audience, where we took all the data we have gathered throughout our time on Meta, where we collected insight about our clients in regards to other campaigns we're making, like conversion, etc., lead gen, and so forth. So what we did was we took those people that had checked out on the website, which we have attributed back to Meta, and then we made a lookalike audience for those. So we try to target people that are similar to people that already converted, because that must be a quality lead, so to say.
So existing clients of the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And then a lookalike of those. So we don't retarget people that already bought, but we're trying to find people that are similar to those. And the last ad set we made was we used the tool that Meta has available is like interest-based. So something that people have actually fulfilled on Meta, like telling what they're interested in. And here we actually just try to optimize for people that are interested in different kind of vehicles that are, of course, electric cars. So we made sure that those probably also have an idea that they might be needing a charging block from Zapp. So those were like the 3 different kind of audiences that we optimized for on Meta, and made sure that the traffic we are sent from Meta to the site where gamification is available was like quality traffic in that regard.
Very interesting. And can you share a little bit about which of those 3 ad set that performed the best?
Yeah, so broad always like gets a lot of spend because it's like a larger audience, but the like cheapest traffic we actually received from those 3 was the lookalike audience. And I think for other clients that are trying to do the same thing, I think it's also important to notice that it also depends on how much data you collected. So let's say you are entirely a new brand, then of course it will be, you would have a lower kind of data amount where you have with you've been advertising for several years. So I think that is something you should have in mind. But on our case, lookalike audience was the one that performed the best and gave us the cheapest amount of traffic to the page.
But basically what I hear you also saying, Jakob, it's basically a wheel. So if you aren't collecting data today, it's basically not too late. You need to get started today, because it will also optimize your future performance and campaign performances. Are you using any kind of cookies or pixel traffic from those who visited but haven't bought yet? Did you use any kind of those for targeting?
You think of like retargeting in that regard? We didn't actually use a lot of retargeting in this kind of setup. Our initial thoughts were we wanted something that hasn't known or heard of Zapp yet. So we just wanted to target entirely new audiences instead of spending too much time on existing. Because I think those people will already be like pulled in from our separate campaigns in conversion, etc., and lead gen. So our main focus, at least in this case, was we want to find brand new customers who haven't heard of Zapp yet, but might already in the journey know that they might be needing a charging box in the future. So that was like our strategy for this case.
Cool. And you also mentioned that there is an automation flow. So those who took the test but didn't convert immediately, I could imagine they become a part of an automation flow. Can you share a little bit about the strategy, the amount of mails, and the communication and call to actions in those?
Yeah, definitely. So like the first thing was gathering traffic, and also important to mention that we also did something on Google. So in our search campaigns, we added a site link where they can also like directly go into the Scratcher tool and fill out the questions we made. And the other was just adding it on to our Performance Max campaigns. So those were like the ideas of gathering the traffic. And then of course, automation will be the one like taking the lead through each customer journey. So the initial thoughts was we of course had to make a flow. The first part was the pop-up, which I mentioned earlier. And the second part is like actually making these flows so people are getting through the customer journey. So whenever people landed on a page, filled out the questions and actually submitted the question and actually became a lead, we made sure that the leads and subscribers we got from that actually got sent through a different amount of mails, and each mail has like a time range. So if they open the first mail, then there's a couple of days till they receive the next, and etc. So we were always like in top of mind through the customer journey in the automation part, and actually making the journey a bit longer even though they might not make the purchase in the beginning. And then also, like through that, we might maybe send 5 who are directly linked to our Scratcher or gamification flows. And you can say they also like being pulled out to our main flow, so to say. So one of the things were, did they convert immediately or did they not? It could be like, you can say that they didn't immediately purchase when they got the pop-up from the page that they submitted that this is the charging bot for you, but we need to make sure that they're actually still remembering that, and etc. So what we did was, again, 5 mails approximately. Each has its own like custom email in them, and whenever we might have like added something to cart or processed something specific or make it to checkout on the page, we made like these abandon the cart, abandon checkout to actually stay in top of mind. So let's say a lead came from Scratcher, they took a different or a specific charging box, put in add to cart, and then they left. Then we want to make sure that this lead is actually get a heads up that you forgot to make the purchase, and we are actually still in there with you. So if you need anything in regards to that, we are there in the automation flow. So those things were actually one of the reasons why I think we got a good case. Automation is definitely like essential part of it. One thing is to make the traffic, but the other thing is to actually make sure that they go from a lead to actually converting in the end.
Cool. No, thank you so much for sharing those insights. And now you said it yourself, it's a very good case. How would you see that this case performs with the conversion rate over time, maybe compared to cases where you haven't used gamification?
I think this is like a good way to be interactive with your clients. Like making something that's personalized is like some of the things you should focus more on. In general, when you're advertising and in general when you're talking marketing, a personalized experience makes it maybe an easier customer journey for some, and that's definitely something you can focus on. And I think like gamification is a great way of doing that. Actually making the client or the customer think of actually what have been answered and what is actually the outcome of those answers. And in that regard, they can make a personalized checkout in some regard. And that's maybe also the reason why we saw such a high conversion rate coming from it. And one of the things we also did was like using the tool, the statistics from the tool to actually see. So one thing we did with Zapp, we increased the amount of spend being used on Meta with 100%, and we saw, of course, a lot of traffic coming through, and we saw the conversion rate remained kind of the same. And I think that's like a great way to be proactive in the case. So in general, I would say for other similar might be considering Scratcher. Like one thing is, of course, making the tool and the questions. And then everything behind it is also really important. So that's like some of the things that we talked about today.
I couldn't agree more. One thing is to have a very nice car. The second part is to have someone who knows how to drive it. Because a Ferrari can still drive 20 kilometers an hour, and a Lada can also run 120. It's all about the driver behind it.
Exactly.
Cool, Jakob. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on the Zapp case. And I'm looking forward to do more exciting cases with you.
Definitely, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome.